The disabled girl was ruthlessly abandoned on her wedding day, driven by a thirst for vengeance. She specially invited her tormentors to her residence to thank the woman for stealing her husband all those years ago. Upon hearing her words, Ruby indulged in self-satisfaction amid her own acting, convinced her gullible former friend had fallen for her pretense once more, utterly oblivious that this dinner was a deadly trap Belle had laid exclusively for her. The moment the two women took their seats, the abusive husband Ruby had spoken of emerged like a spectre before their eyes. Ruby's fabrication shattered instantly. She scrambled to flee, only to be blocked on the spot by Belle and Hudson. Belle then spoke with biting sarcasm. "Did you not claim Hudson subjected you to unprovoked beatings after marriage? How come he states he struck you because you cheated on him twice? You two stirred up a sensational commotion at my wedding just to be together. What has become of you now? Speak your minds, and I shall judge who is in the wrong." Belle alternated between mocking sarcasm and deceptive amicable smiles. Her imposing aura as a distinguished socialite kept the guilty pair taut with tension, daring not to utter a single unnecessary sound. She then instructed servants to bring out food, urging them to reconcile and live harmoniously as if she were an old acquaintance. "Stop running away, Ruby. Hudson has been frantic searching everywhere for you. Is this affluent lifestyle not everything you once dreamed of? Oh, I nearly forgot. I heard you recently befriended a renowned director in the entertainment circle. Women favored by him allegedly attain instant fame and fortune." These few casual remarks precisely struck at the man's fragile pride and vulnerabilities. Once Hudson's fury reached its boiling point, Belle feigned magnanimity and granted them space to converse privately. No longer able to endure the relentless humiliation, Ruby openly declared she would cut all ties with Hudson and file for divorce through the courts. This declaration ignited the obsessive Hudson's unbridled rage. Like a feral beast out of control, he seized Ruby, intending to drag her back and lock her away. Belle, who had maintained unwavering composure, immediately shouted for him to halt and deliberately allowed Ruby to escape. She knew full well bodyguards awaited Ruby outside. Should harm befall Ruby inside her home, law enforcement would inevitably intervene, dragging her entire family name into scandal. Ruby seized the chance to flee in disarray, yet Hudson would never let the woman who had repeatedly humiliated him slip away. He pursued her closely. Belle observed everything with icy detachment. She understood consummate vengeance never lies in personally delivering destruction, but in condemning the depraved pair to an endless cycle of suspicion, violence, and betrayal, to torment one another until they crumble of their own accord. Elsewhere, Ruby, who had narrowly escaped, returned home under her steward's protection to visit her mother, only to stumble upon her elder sister's boyfriend proposing to her. This man served as Belle's father's personal chauffeur, born into poverty with wealth or influence. The snobbish Ruby openly hurled insults on the spot, sneering that he possessed nothing and was unworthy of her sister, stating firmly she would never sanction their engagement. Her elder sister had long grown weary of Ruby's arrogant conduct and retorted her marriage required no approval from Ruby. Not everyone prioritizes money above all else and abandons morality for gain. Their mother also held David in high regard and fully supported her eldest daughter's decision. This string of misfortunes stripped Ruby of all rationality. She sought out a gang leader, egging him to rob Belle's mansion, revealing Belle's father worked as a bank governor whose residence held vast quantities of cash and jewels. She personally devised an impeccable scheme for the gang, precisely disclosing the locations of security systems and surveillance switches, along with the optimal entry route to guarantee success. She told the gang leader she desired no share of the stolen loot, on the condition they complete two tasks. First, they must shatter the disabled girl's remaining leg during the burglary. Second, plant a portion of the stolen jewels inside the vehicle, belonging to her sister's boyfriend David. As the governor's driver, he possessed intimate knowledge of the household, making him the perfect fall guy whose incrimination would appear flawless. The gang leader was captivated by Ruby's ingenious twofold plot, and the two struck a formal bargain. While Ruby congratulated herself on her foolproof plan, Hudson, who had secretly tracked her, caught up once again, without her steward to shield her this time. Hudson abducted Ruby effortlessly, transporting her to a gloomy underground chamber. Hudson harbored no intention of ending her life. He merely wished to imprison her here forever, so she would belong solely to him. It was undeniable the wicked woman possessed traits that exerted an addictive hold over men. Even after enduring 2 betrayals, the obsessive young heir remained consumed by an irresistible fixation on her. Upon learning Ruby had vanished, her lover director Hong immediately suspected Hudson and burst directly into his residence. Yet Hudson had prepared thoroughly in advance, leaving behind zero traceable evidence at the scene. A fierce confrontation erupted between the 2 powerful men, both drawn to ruthless women. Deep into the night, the gang enlisted by Ruby set their scheme into motion. Striking at 1 o'clock in the early morning when security guards were most weary, they violently broke into Belle's villa, binding Belle's parents. Belle struggled desperately to evade the gang's pursuit. Fortunately, the gang leader retained a shred of sanity. He only sought wealth and wished to avoid escalating the crime into murder. Thus, he disregarded Ruby's order to cripple Belle's other leg and instead struck her prosthetic limb. Eventually, the gang looted all valuables within the household and locked the entire family inside a cramped storage room. The following dawn, David, the chauffeur, arrived as scheduled to collect the bank governor, yet received no response. Sensing something gravely wrong, he rushed into the mansion. He was met with a scene of utter devastation. Following faint cries for help, he unlocked the storage room door and freed the bound family. Meanwhile, Ruby, who had endured a full day and night of captivity, activated her most masterful manipulative performance. The instant Hudson descended into the basement, she broke into hysterical tears, begging forgiveness for all past transgressions, vehemently claiming she shared no romantic entanglement with director Hong, their relationship merely that of employee and employer. Her pursuit of the entertainment industry motivated solely by the wish to earn independently. Hailing from impoverished origins, she feared others would deem her unworthy of her wealthy husband. She proceeded to recount every hardship endured throughout her tragic childhood, through tearful sobs. This influential heir, who commanded respect within business circles, lost all sense of reason at the sight of Ruby's tears. He swallowed every lie she fabricated without hesitation, and readily agreed to release her. Driven by wounded male vanity, he even volunteered to escort Ruby to director Hong's villa to retrieve her belongings, demanding Ruby confess to Hong exactly who she truly loved. Why was the privileged womanizing Hudson repeatedly ensnared by Ruby? The answer never rested on Ruby's exceptional manipulation skills, but within Hudson's own character flaws and psychological obsessions. His self-esteem remained extremely fragile, propped up entirely by the prestige of his social standing. Ruby's initial meek subservience and flattery perfectly fed his narcissism. Yet he never anticipated the docile woman would betray him time and again. This unprecedented loss of control wounded the heir who had always been catered to by others. What he felt for Ruby was not love, but warped possessiveness, the compulsive urge to conquer a woman who continuously defied him. Ruby's renewed deference soothed his damaged pride once more, and a few tears dismantled all his defenses. Men of this nature may appear to hold power, yet they are the easiest pawns to manipulate. No sooner had the pair arrived at the villa than Ruby threw herself straight into director Hong's embrace. The agonizing sight pierced Hudson to the core. Enraged, he drew his gun, intending to eliminate the deceitful woman, only to be swiftly subdued by Hong's prearranged steward. Hudson finally saw through the avaricious woman standing before him. As he departed, he sneered and warned director Hong not to grow complacent. This woman betrayed me without remorse, and she will abandon you without hesitation once a wealthier prospect emerges. Yet director Hong shared Hudson's former blind confidence, convinced he held Ruby's genuine affection, and their bond would never break. Having escaped captivity, Ruby wasted no time hatching her next scheme. She persuaded director Hong to arrange interviews with newspaper journalists, stepping into the spotlight, portraying herself as an abused tragic wife. She elaborated and fabricated tales of prolonged domestic violence and abduction at Hudson's hands, attempting to sway public opinion to imprison Hudson and seize possession of his vast fortune. Substantial evidence of abduction ensured the story quickly dominated online trending topics. Netizens boiled over with indignation, branding Hudson a public pariah. When swarms of reporters descended to press him for statements, the irritable Hudson drove them all away, further validating rumors, labeling him an abusive husband. His lawyer earnestly urged him to flee Mexico temporarily and lay low. Yet consumed by vengeance, Hudson stubbornly refused to leave. Elsewhere, having destroyed her husband's reputation via public opinion, Ruby moved forward with her plot to frame her sister's boyfriend David. Following their agreement, the gang leader planted a portion of the stolen jewels inside David's vehicle and messaged Ruby confirming the task was complete. Ruby immediately set the final stage of her trap in motion. She visited Belle's mansion under the pretense of offering condolences, but the astute Belle already suspected Ruby's involvement in the robbery and forced her to leave at once. Afterward, Ruby casually approached investigating police officers seeking updates on the case and subtly insinuated the perpetrator was likely someone familiar with the household security system, who would naturally arrive at the scene shortly after the crime. Her words steered law enforcement's suspicion toward her sister's boyfriend. Acting on the lead, officers discovered the stolen property inside David's automobile and arrested him as the prime suspect. Her elder sister Tina firmly believed in David's innocence and hurried to the police station to testify on his behalf, only to accidentally learn from officers that Ruby's tips had directly led to David's arrest. Tina knew her younger sister was obsessed with wealth, yet never imagined she was capable of such heartless wickedness. Everything unfolded precisely according to Ruby's meticulous blueprint. She gazed upon the flawless outcome with satisfaction, unaware brutal retribution loomed rapidly on the horizon. The next day, Ruby returned home wearing a self-satisfied expression, feigning concern as she claimed she had long distrusted David and offered to introduce wealthy new suitors to her sister. Tina had hoped to avoid conflict as their mother had recently undergone heart surgery, yet she could no longer endure Ruby's hypocritical, malicious face. Their mother separated the quarreling sisters, gesturing for her eldest daughter to take the children outside once Tina left. The mother sternly interrogated Ruby, demanding to know if she was behind the incident. Though Ruby stubbornly denied all accusations, a mother could instantly discern when her child lied. The elderly woman could no longer tolerate her daughter's selfish cruelty, warning Ruby she would never set foot in this home again unless she secured David's exoneration. Ruby remained delusional, convinced every act she committed was intended to grant her family a better life, and therefore justified. Shortly after Ruby stormed out, her mother suffered a severe heart attack from overwhelming fury. Midway along her journey, Ruby realized she had left her cell phone at home. When she returned to retrieve it, she discovered her mother collapsed and barely conscious on the floor. Despite screaming desperately for help, she could not save her mother's life. At this instant, every malicious deed she had perpetrated boomeranged onto the person she cherished most. At the funeral, Tina, who finally saw Ruby's true nature, held her fully responsible for their mother's death and forbade her from attending the service. The calculating woman could only hide inside her car, watching her mother's casket be lowered into the ground from afar. Yet the loss of her close-knit blood relative failed to awaken the last vestiges of conscience within the Viper. Freed from her mother's moral restraint, her ambitions spiraled into unbridled madness. Before long, leveraging her beauty and fame as a survivor of domestic abuse, she ascended to the pinnacle of Mexico's entertainment industry, becoming an A-list celebrity. Countless luxury brand endorsements flooded in, and she received invitations to exclusive elite state banquets. It was at one such banquet she encountered the third stepping stone of her life, a prince hailing from a neighboring nation. Upon hearing the man bore the title of heir to the throne, a feral glint flickered once more within Ruby's eyes.